Fox News host Tucker Carlson now has access to a total of 44,000 hours of security footage from January 6th. And in an interview with the New York Times, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is defending his decision to hand over the video. He told the Times that he, quote, promised to release the footage, adding, I was asked in the press about these tapes, and I said they belong to the American people. I think Sunshine lets everybody make their own judgment. But we should point out, he has not given these tapes to the public, just to one specific host at Fox News. Back with me tonight, Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin, a Democrat who sits on the House Judiciary Committee and, of course, was a member of the Special House Committee investigating January 6th. Congressman, I want to dig right into these tapes, but I have to start. You look very cool tonight. You are clearly in one of Stephen Van Zant's bandanas, so I have to ask how you feeling.
Well, I'm hanging tough. You're sweet to ask. I'm halfway through my chemo treatments, and the doctors say everything is going all right. And so thanks to Steve Van Zant and my wonderful constituents, I've got some good stuff to wear for the next couple months.
That is very good. There's always a reason to listen to Bruce Springsteen. As a girl from New Jersey, I definitely think it's going to help bring you back to good health. But let's get into this Tucker Carlson thing. So Speaker McCarthy is saying, listen, the public wants these things. He was asked about it in the press. He's not giving these tapes to the public. He is giving them to one specific news host, a host who we've seen is willing to spread lies about the election while privately calling the election deniers liars.
I mean, can you imagine if the January 6th Select Committee had done this, given materials to one network, much less one host, just to Stephanie Ruhle or Rachel Maddow? There would have rightfully been a scandal about it. And so when Kevin McCarthy says he wants to give it to the American people, but it's going to be filtered through the prism of Tucker Carlson, I think it shows how distorted and deranged his politics have become. But look, the underlying question is really one of security of the members of Congress, the staff, the U.S. Capitol Police, people who work in the Capitol. We were very careful to put together a very comprehensive video portrait of what happened that day. We had staff going through thousands and thousands of hours, and we told the story in bipartisan fashion to the American people. But we didn't give away the location of cameras. We didn't give away evacuation routes and escape pathways for the vice president and the members of Congress and so on. We don't know what kind of deal Speaker McCarthy has made with Tucker Carlson, who already committed to his conspiracy theories in his Patriot Purge series, where he's claiming that somehow this was a false flag operation with Antifa or, you know, renegade members of the FBI or whatever nonsense he's going to come up with. The January 6th committee was in search of the truth. And we had more than 1,000 witnesses come. We've released all those transcripts. They are not in search of the truth. They're in search of something completely different.
Is Kevin McCarthy allowed to do this? Don't these tapes technically belong to the taxpayers?
Well, the House Administration Committee, we hope, will see that cooler heads will prevail and that there will be some real process and real protections in place. When members of our committee needed to go and look at any of the thousands of hours of footage that were available, it was a very strict, regulated process with the Capitol Police. And it was only members of Congress and it was only members of our staff and a very small number who had access to them. We never brought in members of the media or outside third parties. So the idea that you're going to give it to some TV producers to go and, you know, try to support whatever kind of theories they're concocting on their own is really disturbing to me. And, you know, we never had access to taking this footage with us. We could just go look at it. And I'm wondering, do they actually have access to the footage such that it's being taken outside of, you know, the property of the U.S. Capitol? I don't know.
So is there anything you can do at this point to stop this content from becoming public?
Well, I know that the minority leader, Mr. Jeffries, is very concerned about it. I know that the ranking member on the House Administration Committee, Mr. Morelli, is very concerned about it. And they are working to try to come up with some coherent legal protocols and regulations for the treatment of this material. But, speaking as the ranking member on the Oversight Committee right now, we don't know who's had access to it, under what conditions, and if any of the material has, left the property of the U.S. Congress. We don't know that. And so I'm hoping that, Mr. Jeffries will be able to work it out with Mr. McCarthy. But McCarthy is very clearly catering to the extreme MAGA wing of his party in doing this. I mean, it's an extraordinary victory for Tucker Carlson, who is just one, media propagandist and mouthpiece for Putin and Orban, to be put into a situation where he gets to be the interpreter for America of some of these images, he and his producers. So I hope that there will be some real legal process put into place.
Well, who Tucker Carlson is and how he rolls is no surprise to anyone. So in retrospect, do you wish that former Speaker Nancy Pelosi would have actually released all this content to the public? Because now when we get it, it will be filtered, to your point, through Tucker's prism.
Well, remember, there are thousands of hours of footage that are out there, not just from the committee, along with the testimony of more than 1,000 witnesses, along with all of the transcripts that have been made public. But there are insurrectionists themselves who've posted stuff online. You can see exactly what happened just by going online and watching the violence take place. So remember, we have security concerns about turning over the location of security cameras in the U.S. Capitol that the police use. We have concern about the escape and evacuation routes that were used on that day. We don't want to just throw our hands up and say, well, let's just let everything go and let the insurrectionists have the material that will allow them to plan the next January 6th. This cannot become a blueprint for the next insurrection, especially with so many of these people still out there.
All right, new topic. What is your take on Special Counsel Jack Smith subpoenaing Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump? They did both speak to your committee, but they didn't remember much. Do you really think that's going to change this time around?
Well, I have no more insight into what's going on in Jack Smith's investigation, the special counsel investigation, than anybody else does. We're not in touch with them. And so I don't know exactly why they're subpoenaing them. But it seems clear to me that both of those witnesses had a lot of information about what was going on in the lead up to January 6th and then on January 6th itself. Now, Jared Kushner, of course, was over in Saudi Arabia, working presumably on public business, although he did come back and the day after the Trump administration ended, create his new private equity business that was then quickly financed with $2 billion from the Royal Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia in sovereign wealth funds. But when he got back, he clearly was involved in some of the things going on, and he and Ivanka were both privy to a bunch of those conversations, and they testified to that, and those transcripts that we have are available to the public. But, of course, it's a completely different thing to be subpoenaed by prosecutors who are asking you to come in and to talk about what it is you know, and presumably they will go in, and presumably they will tell the truth about everything that they know. There were real crimes committed that day, as our committee found, and we referred the evidence of the crimes that we had to the Department of Justice so they could pursue all of them.
Presumably, they will share what they know. Underlining, presumably. Congressman, good to see you. Wishing you the best of health. I know you're headed back to chemo tomorrow, so I'm glad you joined us tonight. Thank you so much.
You bet.